Hola y bienvenido nuevo de MMA Split.
Hola.
Mi nombre Matthew, tu presentador acompañado siempre mi amigo, productor y presentador Josh.
I can speak English too, I'm bilingual.
Aquí para hablar con Noche UFC. Viva Mexico! Okay, we're going to stop doing it now.
Noche UFC.
I said it, I know I almost corrected. I got it wrong, and then I corrected myself. We're not doing the podcast in Spanish because I can't speak Spanish that well. But it was Noche UFC. We are here to talk about that. All the aftermath.
Just...
It was a fight night, but there was a title on the line.
It was a night fight.
It was a night fight. It was a
night
fight
time.
with a Mexican champion. The last one left. We were wondering who's going to win this fight. Is there still going to be a Mexican champion? 3 at the start of the year? Is it going to be 0 after Saturday? There was no winner. There was no loser. The belt stays in Grasso's hands. She is still the champion.
I'm going to say there was a winner. I'm going to say there was a winner.
Well, that's the thing. When you are the champion and you get a draw, it does kind of feel like it's more of a win, draw, than the other person, who definitely feels like it's a loss. But we didn't make the rules. You can't take away the belt because of a draw.
No, although it does say in the rules that if you win 3 out of those 5 rounds, you won the fight.
We're going to be discussing that. We're going to be discussing the 10-8 round, the judges' scorecards, the reaction to the judges' scorecards, the reaction to the results from both fighters, what other people are saying, the fight itself, the technicalities. It was a great fight. It was an interesting card. We're talking about the co-main event. Jack Della Maddalena gets it done over Kevin Holland. Was it a split decision? Should Kevin Holland have won the fight? We're going to be discussing that. Spoiler alert, he shouldn't have won the fight. The correct guy won the fight. It should have been a unanimous decision.
That's how you do a cliffhanger. What?
Raul Rosas Jr. puts in a great performance. Lupi Godinez puts in a great performance. Chris Tione has a shocker. We'll be discussing all of that. Tracy Cortez gets it done. Looks fantastic. We'll be discussing that. And there's been a merger. TKO is now trading on the stock market. UFC and WWE are now forever merged, making it even harder for me to explain to my family that MMA is real. We'll be discussing that. We want you to like and subscribe if you are not subscribed. If you are subscribed, like. And if you are both liked and subscribed, comment. With all of that out of the way, Grasso versus Shevchenko 2. It's always hard to win a rematch. Both fighters are going to make adjustments. Seriously close fight. I'm going to pass it over to you, but in terms of how I think the scoring went, at the end of the fight, I had it 3-2 Grasso. I had her winning 2, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Shevchenko 1 and 3. I thought Shevchenko won about 18 minutes of the 25, but the 7 minutes that Grasso won was the most impactful and the most damaging. I don't know who wins a rematch, technically a trilogy, but it's not a true trilogy, because I don't know how many times Grasso can keep finding these fantastic moments she's able to capitalize. But I will say this, when I saw 47-47 and I realized there was a 10-8 round, my immediate instinct was that it was 10-8 to Shevchenko in round 3, and the other judge had given Grasso 3 rounds. I honestly thought there was a possibility of a 9-9.
Well, I think you're selling Grasso a little short. I think even in the first round, I think as good as Shevchenko was, Grasso kept it reasonably close with just having some good heavy shots. You scored damage after all. I definitely agree. It was rounds 2, 4, and 5. Grasso won that fight. The judging was ridiculous. It wasn't a 10-8 round. Doesn't matter. If they hadn't have jumped to that ridiculous conclusion. And was it Sal or was it Mike Bell?
Mike Bell had the 47-47
Okay.
with the 10-8 for Shevchenko, for Grasso in round 5.
Yeah.
But giving Shevchenko 1, 3, and 4. So,
Yeah,
so here's the issue. Do you remember when we were discussing Sterling versus Cejudo?
because like I would say round 1 was closer than round 4.
This is where I do feel like you and I are going to disagree. We'll get to the point I was going to make about Sterling Cejudo in a second. If you look at rounds 2, 4, and 5, I would argue that take away the knockdown, the knees to the head, and obviously the back take in the 5th round. The rest of those rounds was Shevchenko either in a controlling, dominating position on top, or controlling the distance, getting that jab away, kicking the leg, trying to look for the body kick when she was in opposite stances. So I do feel like in those sort of like point fighting moments, this ability for Shevchenko to fight long, counter, deal with Grasso not looking as effective as she did in the first fight in the southpaw stance, at least I thought.
If the point fighting style doesn't create a significant amount of damage, then it's not going to nullify the amount of damage you absorb. You need to literally just not really absorb any shots, and she did.
I agree with you. But this is the point I make about Shevchenko could look at this fight and say, man, most of this fight was me doing what I wanted to do. But for me, there's 3 critical moments that happen in rounds 2, 4, and 5 that you have to give. Like, nobody's arguing with round 2. She gets the knockdown. She hurts her. She lands significant follow-up strikes. Really just gets a bit reckless. Dives in trying to finish. Leaves the double leg open.
Yeah.
Shevchenko is able to recover and survive by being in a controlling position, but doesn't land any damage. Round 5, no question. I mean, she had the choke in. She was landing ground and pound as soon as she took the back, threatening the choke. She still had the body triangle at the end of the 5th round. So you can make an argument that that dominance was going to continue. Not enough for a 10-8. The tricky round is round 4. Because Shevchenko does get good strikes off. She does get a takedown. She has some control time. She cuts her open with the elbow. Lands a good right hook. I just feel like those knees are so significant. And the reaction of those knees. And just the fact that, like, for one, they were legal. I know she was trying to put the hand on the ground. But you can't just quickly tap your hand down in order to make a strike that's coming illegal. You have to be in a grounded position. And then the other person is not allowed to strike you in that position. But you can't just go to that as a defense mechanism. And that, for me, is the equivalent of turning your back and running in the opposite direction after being hurt from a strike. Like, people talk about, basing the amount of damage a strike does on the reaction. And I'm not saying that those knees were seriously damaging. But the very fact that Shevchenko was doing something so anti-competitive, so, non-combative to try and avoid those knees has to be scored massively in favour of Grasso. In the same way as if she'd spent that same 20 seconds turning her back and running away in circles from her, we would score that as...
Also, even just, they are ridiculously damaging shots. And it was a lot of knees she ate, so...
And I would say this as well, it's not really getting credited, but Grasso gets out of the control at the end of the 4th round and goes for that leg lock. And she doesn't get the heel hook, but she does have...
Yeah, the knee is like... It's not quite out, it's like right on the cusp, But, you score damage. At the end of the day, you score damage. So, for me, it was pretty obvious that Grasso won that fight. The judges, whatever. Grasso retains. Do you assume they do an immediate rematch?
Before we touch on that, I wanted to bring up the point about Sterling Cejudo. Everyone's criticising the judges, but most of those people would have said that you could give a 3-2 to Grasso. And I feel we're in the same situation. Do you remember Sterling Cejudo? Where you and I both thought Sterling won, but it was so obvious that Cejudo won the 5th round. Sterling was completely non-combative, didn't throw anything, and the judge that ended up giving the fight to Sterling gave him the 5th round.
Yeah.
And we were upset because the argument was, it's not that we disagree with your final answer, it's just the way that you've reached that has me seriously worried. It's like you tell a kid, a kid gets a division math problem, and he gives the right answer, but in giving the right answer, he's done 2 + 2 = 7, -3 to get 12, and all this kind of stuff, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, like, we got there, but it worries me how you got there. It's that same thing. It's like, if he just gives Grasso the 4th round, and then gives her the 10-8, we're still talking about how stupid the 10-8 is, but it doesn't have the same level of controversy. But it's almost like, by it being a draw, it's taken more away from Grasso than if she'd been given that 4th round.
The mistakes are so bad, it's like he's chasing his losses.
And it's created a narrative that's kind of taken away a little bit. Like, it's never great when you get a draw, but you are still the champion. You still defended your belt on Mexican Independence Day.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I want to see a trilogy fight. I think these two are the most interesting, closely matched competitors that also put on a really entertaining fight. They're good everywhere. There's been great moments of finish, knockdowns.
Do you think it sells?
Well, I don't know if this division really sells. Shevchenko's never really headlined her own pay-per-view.
So no, I don't think it sells either.
But I think the UFC, when you have a fight like that, you've got to do it again. I think competitively, it's an interesting fight. You've had 2 fights where they've both had moments, and Shevchenko can maybe say she's won all those control points, but Grasso's still the one who's got the belt at the end of both fights, and certainly in both fights almost getting the choke in, almost knocking her out. I mean, I think it's a good fight for Grasso, because I think people like Santos and Blanchfield, they might be problems. But you know that you can handle the power, the size, you can hurt Shevchenko. She's getting older. The more time that passes, the more you're in your prime, and the more she's maybe just a bit slower. Maybe just picking up a few more injuries. Maybe just doubting herself a little bit more now that it's a loss and a draw. And it's over a year since she's had a win now. It will be over a year when the next time they fight. It will have been over a year since Shevchenko wasn't the champion. These things can start affecting your mind and your confidence.
Well, I mean, I didn't see it, but you did. You were telling me earlier, sour grapes on her part and the reaction.
In both the cage interview and the post-fight presser. Basically insinuating the judges felt pressured because it's Mexican Independence Day, so screwed her on the cards to give the draw. And then said afterwards that in any situation where she could get a fair fight and a fair judging result, she would win the fight. Which is sour grapes. You can't...
No, bit.
This was a close fight. And I'll be honest, listen, if they said... If Kamijo's scorecard had said 3-2 Shevchenko, I wouldn't have really... I would have disagreed with it. But you can't say it's a robbery. You know what I mean? You can look at that 4th round and you can say she won it. It's a close fight. But in those close fights, you don't have the ability to throw your arms up and say, I got screwed over. It's just the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes. And guess what? It could have gone the other way to a Shevchenko, and then you're facing 2 losses to the same person, and and now you're hoping that she loses against a different competitor for you to get your chance to get your belt back. You got a draw. You're a big enough pull with the UFC that you're going to get a trilogy fight. I would like to see a trilogy fight.
Is that official?
It's not official, but I think it's the direction that they would go in.
I imagine so, but
Well, here's the thing. Fioro and Blanchfield did not exactly set the world on fire with their wins. Neither got a finish, neither looked spectacular. They were ugly-ish fights, extenuating circumstances with the rose finger and stuff like that. So I think you do the trilogy, and then on that same card, or around that same period of time, you do Fiorot versus Blanchfield as a number 1 contender title eliminator. I'll say this as well, if Shevchenko had won that fight and got the result, no fucking way does she give Grasso the trilogy. No way. She would have been telling her people, that Mexican stays the fuck away from me. Like, I ain't fighting her again. No way, no how. I ain't taking that risk. Give me Blanchfield that I might back myself to be strong enough to hold against the takedowns and piece up on the feet.
If she loses the trilogy, do you think she retires? Do you think she starts fighting
I think if she loses...
Blanchfields of the world?
If she loses it on decision, no matter how the fight goes, she'll say she was robbed and move up to 135. If she gets knocked out, judging from how she handles losses, she'll say that she would have won the fight, but she just made one mistake and got knocked out, and she'll move up to 135. I think the natural progression is 135, because I think 25 has become so deep, and all credit to Shevchenko, like, she built this division.
Yeah.
This division was nothing, and started with her defending the belt against the Jessica Eyes of this world.
Well, it was, before Shevchenko, it was the Ultimate Fighter, so it was Nico
Montagna, who then never defended the belt. Then it was Shevchenko. And then you look at the quality, she starts off fighting Jessica Eye and... Oh, God, who's the girl? She fights in Bellator now. Ronda Rousey's first fight in the UFC. The girl Rilla.
Yeah, Liz Carmouche.
Liz Carmouche. Those are her first couple title defences. And you look at the monsters that are contending for the belt now. Grasso has it. But before that, Santos gave her a hell of a fight. You've got Blanchfield waiting in the wings. Manon Fiorot. A bunch of other prospects like Natalia Silva coming through.
Yeah.
This division's been built by Shevchenko, and she deserves all the credit no matter what. But 135 is dead right now. And I think Shevchenko could dominate some people.
Oof, maybe.
If she's...
How old is she now, though?
35.
35? Fuck, man. I think if she loses, that might be it.
She's powerful, though, man. She's losing... I think she's losing some speed. But I think that gets compensated by moving up in weight class. And the lack of quality. And then, you know what I mean, you win that 135 belt, maybe you're fighting, a Juliana Pena, who you've already beat at that weight class? You know, or maybe it's a Raquel Pennington that you end up fighting, you know. You could win the belt and retire, and then you've got the same double champ or 2 division champ status that Amanda has. Chat, what do you think? Leave us in the comments.
Yeah.
What do you think Shevchenko's next move should be? Final point before we move on. I really like the Mexican style. How the Mexican champs are kind of like making these adjustments to their belts with the colours and stuff like that.
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah.
I am not very observant.
What's his face? Yaya Rodriguez. He did it for his interim belt. And Grasso had a kind of Mexican coloured styled, lots of Mayan sort of
nice
style themes things. That's really cool. And I kind of like that because it makes it feel like it's a much more personalised thing. And obviously the way that they do the belts now is you don't get a new belt for every title defence. They just add the ruby. Yeah. So it is nice to kind of like customise your belt.
Yeah, I got to be honest, when they did the decisions, I was actually multitasking, so that's why I didn't see the belt. My bad.
It's all good. Let's talk about the co-main event.
Co-main was fun.
Co-main...
It was
a very technical fight, and I think really it's interesting for me that it was a split decision, because in the end, this wasn't as enjoyable for me, because it just kind of highlights the issue with Kevin Holland. Which is that he's so athletic, he's a lot of fun. The Kung Fu stuff is great, but there's so many fundamental errors with the way that he fights and what he does and what you can catch him with that for me, I didn't think this was that close. Like, I thought Jack had a little issue getting around the range, and obviously he was cautious and didn't want to get hit with anything too big. And Kevin Holland did sort of, use that kind of high right hand and was moving out the way a lot. But I thought this was comfortably 2-0 Jack after 2 rounds, and at no point did I see Kevin Holland really ever looking like he was going to threaten any sort of major move to knock him out in the third.
Again, you scored damage. Madalena was hitting the heavier shots, hitting them in combination.
Talking to
It was
him.
easy. Yeah, it was just easy to me. That was JDM's fight. Kind of went a little bit how we sort of thought it would. Although Holland put up a better fight than I imagined he would. I thought JDM was kind of just going to walk through him a little bit.
Kevin Holland didn't take any risks in this fight, dude.
No, he was smart. He was able to keep the distance much better than I thought he'd be able to. But again, I know it's like JDM can only really, he has to change stances. You can only really sort of slip inside. You can always get him from the other side. So, depending on which foot he's got forward, you just go attack that side.
Fighting's about risk management. And being that, it just never felt like Kevin Holland was going to be able to land anything significant.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, I thought he was maybe going to get his ass kicked. And, he just lost the fight. He didn't get his ass kicked.
Well, he's hard to finish. Very hard to finish. I mean, he's technically been finished, but it's by submission and it's by corner stoppage.
Yeah.
This isn't a guy that we've seen get knocked down. And he still ate some clean shots. He just lacks... There's fundamental things that it just feels like when he fights a real elite striker, get him in trouble. Jack Della, it's little things. It's understanding distance and range. Jack's ability to keep the head off the center line, get combinations away. And it's like, okay, I get that you're doing this high guard and moving the head away, but you've got a smaller guy in front of you. You've got to be able to hit him with something as he's coming in. And that's going to involve some feints, some setups. But he doesn't really do that. It's kind of jab and then...
Yeah, he caught him a couple of times just by dumb luck, but...
Also because he's got an 80-inch reach.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it frustrating, is the physical tools are there. But he's such a classic example of somebody where those physical tools take him so far that there are these little holes that haven't necessarily been plugged in. And a lot of why we love Kevin Holland is that he's got this kind of laissez-faire personality. He's an easygoing guy. But that easygoing... I'm an easygoing guy.
And crime fighter.
But I'm not good at a bunch of shit that other people with better work ethics are good at, because they work on this fucking shit. And... he must be such a coach's nightmare. His coaches must love him and hate him at the same time.
Has he still got Big Rig doing his wrestling?
I don't know about that.
It's
Travis Luder's his main guy.
Yeah, that's his jits. Though.
Yeah. And again, it's just like...
Just the jits.
He kind of went for a takedown. Was it round 2 or round 3?
Fuck. No, don't remember.
It wasn't a good takedown.
Don't remember what's this one.
It was not a good takedown. So it's just a bit... It's frustrating because you had all these high hopes with Kevin Holland when he went to welterweight. And the reality is it's a deeper division. And there's just too many, the Wonder Boy fight, the Hamzat fight, now Jack Della Maddalena. You kind of see he's going to be a fun gatekeeper. And I don't really see him ever getting beyond that. Because I don't think he's got... I think he likes fighting, but I think he likes getting paid. And I don't think this would even be an insult if he was to see me saying this.
Who do you reckon gets paid more, him or Neil Magny?
Him.
I reckon Magny.
I reckon him. He's more of a draw than Magny.
I didn't say that. I said which one gets paid more. I reckon Magny.
He's called out Neil Magny. He says, let's have a hair fight. Loser has to cut their hair.
Sure. Let's do it.
But see, this is what I mean. he's not that bummed about the loss. If anything, I think he looked at it as like, hey, if I beat him, awesome. But so I don't even think he'd be upset. I think he is a prize fighter, but I don't know if he's got the mindset of I'm doing this to be the champ. Whereas Jack Della Maddalena, he's doing all the hard work, and he might not be good enough to get there, but you can tell that he's 100% switched on. And it's hard once you get to a certain level to not beat guys if you're not at the same level of work rate and intensity as them.
Yes, that's very true. Sorry, I'm gonna. I had an edible. Just
Don't worry. Sometimes I just
holding it down. I'm back.
I sometimes feel like I overtalk you, so I try and make sure that.
I'm
I give you
usually
the
a
platform.
lot better at just jumping in. But right now, I'm just like, yeah. To be honest, there's about as much as I really kind of want to break down on JDM Holland because it was fun, but it wasn't a fucking great lights out fight. I enjoyed it. There was quite a few like good sort of technical, brawly kind of fights on this card. Sort of the theme of the night.
Such as Rao versus Junior versus.
No, this was just fucking very quick fight. Very sloppy fight as well, to be honest.
Yeah. It
Very
hasn't really answered any of the questions about Rosas Junior.
So, yeah.
We're aware that you can
Because
come
every now
out.
and again you're like, how old is he? Must have had a birthday. Nah, 18. Still 18.
But it's like the big question for me going into this is like, is he going to look like a 17-year-old that goes out at 110% for the first round and is fucked if it hits round 2? That question is yet to be answered because he still went out like a fucking crazy person and just said.
Well, I think as soon as he got caught, he was just like, fuck. Need to finish this fight.
He did, to be fair. It's a fucking monster right hand.
Yeah,
and
Jesus.
Anyone can have power when you're loading your entire body weight with both of your feet set and no setup into every single shot. And Mexican independence, so they had fun. They needed this. I was thinking it was going to be a bad main card for the Mexicans because obviously we had Padilla losing. Very close fight to Carl Nelson.
I actually thought he won that fight.
And then Zellhuber gets rocked in the first round by Giagos, and you are just thinking like, oh no, is this going to be hype trains derailed? Brilliantly comes back.
That's the thing. I was thinking like, Giagos is really winning on the feet here, but like, what the fuck do you do if Giagos takes him down? And it was just like, oh no, anaconda choke. That
was a really nice take as well.
Yep.
We didn't really talk about this on the main card as well, though, but fair play Shevchenko to the guillotine. There were some nicely taken submissions on this card.
You know, we talked a lot about that before we started recording. I don't know what the fuck was going on that she didn't just try and like finish that guillotine. No one looked like they were panicking at any point. Everyone seems to know something I didn't know. If you know, put it in the comments. Unless she's going to write something mean, don't do that, come on. Would your mum be proud of you? Probably, she's got low standards.
Zellhuber's a really technically nice fighter to watch.
Yeah.
A lot of potential there. Good night for the Mexicans going down the prelims as well. Lupi Godinez making mincemeat of Elise Reed.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
The armbar she has on her. Oh man, that's one of those where it's just like, you're going to get your arm broken, gut, and it's like, is it worth it? Like, you need to win this fight. If you suffer all of this, it's got to be for a win. You can't go through like having. I can't even bend my arm that far. Her arm was fully like at that kind of angle, and she still ends up losing after only taking more punishment and domination.
Yeah, that's a pretty nasty one.
It's a tough night.
Lupi, how many fights has she lost in the UFC? Is it just when she tried to turn it around within a week and then?
I think it's 3. But we can have a look.
Only 2. Fuck.
She had that weird period where I think she was over competing.
Yeah.
And she's definitely
She looked strong as fuck against Reed.
Yeah. You were kind of insinuating maybe by not the.
Hey, I said that off. I said I'm a Lupi fan. She did look hella fucking strong though. Just saying she looked juicy strong. I'm not saying she was juicy. She looked juicy strong.
Yeah, it's crazy. She's lost to Luana Carolina. And she tried to fight literally 1 week after getting a win.
Yeah.
Angela Hill. Maybe it's just 2 losses in the UFC. I can only see 2 here. But she's a monster, and I'm pretty sure the rest she's got like sisters or stuff like that who wrestle on a national level. So she's from a family of athletic, competitive,
not drug
powerful
cheats,
women.
which I said off air.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But she's got huge amounts of talent. If you can wrestle and dominate like that at the strawweight division,
Yeah.
it's not a lot of girls doing that. It's basically you and Tatiana Suarez. Carla Esparza used to do it, but she's having a family now.
Yeah. Fuck. Suarez is on another level though.
Suarez is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Look out for... That's going to be a good fight when it comes. But Lupi's a monster. Big win, Tracy Cortez. Wasn't sure about this fight with Jasmine Jasdavicius after Jasdavicius' performance against Miranda Maverick.
Whoa.
Oh my god, that's some fucking hard alliteration to say when I'm high and drunk. Jasmine Jasdavicius and Miranda Maverick. Well, it's easy now.
Sell seashells at the seashore.
Why did it seem easy the second
This
time?
was a great... This was another one of the fun technical brawls. It's a really good fight. Jasdavicius just took a little too long to really be able to kind of get going and have any real success against Cortez, but Cortez, aggressive, to the fucking onus.
Throwing combinations, landing combinations. Jasdavicius can look a little wooden when it's just on the feet.
Well, there was a real speed discrepancy.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jasdavicius was able to kind of deal with that later on, closing the distance, but fucking first 2 rounds, no. Still made it a fun fight.
And she had a baby in this last year and a half.
Cortez, yeah.
And she's not with Brian Ortega anymore. So that's now 3 kids that Brian Ortega's looking after. Or looking out where he's not at home. That dog. Yeah, Tracy Cortez, she's very marketable. I think there's huge talent there. If she can keep learning and improving her striking like that to go with her wrestling, she could be some fun.
Yeah.
The only problem I'd say is I think the division around her's got a lot better in the years where she's not been fighting regularly. And I think that's going to be a hard thing to overcome. It's nice to see that she doesn't just have to use her wrestling.
Yeah, but, I mean, normally, like, was she like 5-0 now?
Her record's 11-1.
Fuck, I'm way off.
I don't know if all of those are UFC fights, though. I think some of those are going to be... Let me just go back to...
And I thought she had a way shorter record.
It feels like it's short. She put it this way, there definitely should have been more fights. Because she's had a lot of time in between. Yeah, 11-1. But let's see some of this
Either
time
way,
in between.
it's not so many fights where you can't still expect that she's going to take big steps forward each time. Obviously, it would have been better to do that more consistently.
She lost her first ever fight in Invicta. So she's on an 11-fight winning streak. She got in via Contender Series against Maria Agapova all the way back in 2019. For reasonably, so she was 6-1 coming into the UFC. So 5-0 in the UFC. So you're not a million miles. You're actually 100% right.
Well,
beating-
no, I was definitely thinking her entire record. I'm an idiot. Doesn't matter. Still could feasibly be taking big steps forward.
She has a win over Erin Blanchfield in Invicta.
Did not know that.
I think that might be Erin Blanchfield's only loss. Let me double check. It is her only loss.
Alright.
So there's a way for Tracy Cortez to get a speed run to that title. If Blanchfield can take it.
And I think the only fight we haven't really talked about is was 2 fights, right? There's Chairez Lasada, the non-finish. Chris Tione decided he didn't want to ref that fight anymore. Called the fight off.
That's a harsh way of describing it.
Nah, he fucked up, didn't he?
It's a bad mistake. Yeah. Edgar Chairez versus Daniel Da Silva.
He's the man of 1,000 names. But only 1 round. You only ever get 1 round out of him. Just
the choke wasn't in. Nobody tapped. Nobody was limp.
Very frustrating.
You can't just look at the arm and kind of slightly touch it and go, the fight's off. You've got to be talking to the guy. Lift the arm up a couple of times. Well, really fucking double check. Understand that it's not a position where the choke can be fully locked in.
It's immediately overturned. It's not ideal, but at least Lasada doesn't completely get done dirty. And there was I'm blanking on her name. Swedish chick.
Josephine Knutson.
Knutson absolutely destroys a man.
Maronique Mann.
No, it was a woman. Sus. Absolutely destroyed her. Oh, God. I thought that joke was so funny in my head when I planned it.
Yeah, there are a couple of one-sided beatdowns for some women on this card. This was definitely the worst of them.
I'm just going to move straight
on. Just keep going.
Yeah, fair enough.
Big wins for Charlie Campbell as well. We got a nice knockout. Yeah. All in all, not a bad little card with a title fight. A lot of controversy. We're going to have the all of the judges are being emergency sent to training sessions.
I'm still trying not to laugh at my own joke. Yeah, the apparently the judges have a little seminar on what a 10-8 round should and shouldn't be. Oops.
They didn't have these kind of judging meetings after, the convenient split, weird judging decisions in their favour. Nobody called this meeting after fucking Reyes versus John Jones.
I've got a co-worker that flaunts sales policy so often that we have actual meetings, entire meetings about sales policy, basically that are really just for him and because of him. And he's like, I wasn't paying attention. That's Mike Bell. Like, I have no faith that this training is going to yield any fucking results. Fucking hell. Let's move on.
Let's
fucking just move on.
Well, we've got UFC coming up this weekend. This is, I'm going to be honest, there's a few weeks until our next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
There are 3 fight nights in between that time. With varying levels of quality in terms of main events. This one is a high-level one.
Yeah.
Fiziev versus Gamrot. This is a fun style matchup. This is a fun matchup for the division. This is a fight both guys need to win because I think both are coming off losses. Or is Gamrot coming off a win? Did he fight Jalen Turner? He did, and he beat Jalen Turner on short notice.
And what are their rankings right now?
Oh, you ask these questions.
I thought it might just be right up there, nice and obvious.
Apparently
wasn't.
It should have been nice and obvious. But unfortunately, and I can make it nice and obvious. In fact, give me a second. And if you can edit...
Take 2.
This
I'm
part.
not edit. I'm probably not going to edit
people.
this. I'll just keep it alive with another great pun.
Go for it.
Oh, shit.
It's number 6 versus number 7.
Thank fuck, I had nothing. I was literally about to do the man pun again.
Okay. Number 6 versus number 7.
It's a pretty good pun, that man.
Gamrot's coming off the short notice win against Jalen Turner. Obviously, Fiziev went against Gaethje, got Gaethje'd. It happens. One of these guys is a striker. The other one is very much
Yeah.
not going to want to stand and strike with a man like Fiziev. I've never seen Fiziev's takedown defense have to be tested against a Gamrot type person. I don't know what happens here. The only thing I know for sure is if Gamrot can't get him to the ground, Fiziev will do bad things to Gamrot.
Yeah.
Like, mercilessly bad things. And I don't really see Fiziev getting... He's not somebody that seems to get tired. Oh, no,
I don't know, like...
he can, actually, yeah. Third round against Gaethje, third round against Bobby Green.
If you put him on his back as well, it's going to be different.
He's a little small. That's kind of the thing I think really screwed him with Gaethje, is it just never felt like he could quite get in that range to land.
Well, I don't think he'll have that problem with Gamrot. It's just
Can he stay
closing
upright?
that distance comes at a price.
Gamrot's relentless, man. He is not going to give up.
Yeah.
5-round fight. The other thing is, look at the people Gamrot's had to fight around this division. He's already had to fight Dariush, Jalen Turner, Guram Kutateladze, like, what's his name? Sarukian. Armin Sarukian.
Yeah.
Like, he's had to fight some guys that are really good wrestlers and really fucking tough people. And he's not necessarily won all those fights, but he's never looked uncompetitive. Fiziev, he's had a big win over RDA, and that's no joke, but RDA's not the same guy. Bobby Green was a striking matchup, which was always going to be in his favour. He lost to Gaethje. I don't think he's as tested.
Who, when he did the kind of Matrix bullet time style
Diakese.
back, that was it.
Mark Diakese. Which, again, it's not a bad, like, the guy's got really good wins. Renato Moicano, beautiful knockout there. It's just that the wrestlers and the guys that can wrestle and strike in that top 15 at 155 pounds are monsters. And even the elite strikers are at a different level. You know, and how does he handle a Gamrot when he's got to close quite a bit of distance to get anything off with his hands? And it's not going to be that far away for Gamrot just to try and clinch him up if he wants to get in and land boxing combos. If he tries to go for too many kicks, kicks can get caught.
I feel like he's quick enough and heavy enough with the kicks. It's really just being in a close enough distance that if the shot that lands doesn't stun Gamrot, take him off his feet, damage his leg enough to make him stutter, you know, like, there's a really good chance that the next thing that happens is Gamrot, you know, runs the pipe, takes him away the fence and takes him down. But I think Steve's got 5 rounds to work. Then he can do some damage. I think it'll be fun.
Well,
Glad we don't have to do picks anymore.
I know. Looking at the rest of this card, it's not a terrible card. Co-main event, Dan Ige versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell needs a win. It kind of feels like Dan Ige always needs a win. So that's a bit of a stupid statement, but he's the ultimate 1 win, 1 loss kind of guy.
Yeah. He doesn't need a win. He needs a knockout, because it's kind of what he likes.
He likes getting that 50k.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that he's the better striker. I mean, he's coming off a nice 2-fight win streak. Before that, it was the Evloev fight. That was tough for him, but he survived to a decision. Lost to Josh Emmett, lost to the Zombie, so he had 3 losses in a row. And now he's come back with 2 wins, including a knockout of Damon Jackson. Bryce Mitchell's going to be doing everything he can to stop it being a stand-up fight, though.
Yeah. But, you know, he can get away with shooting very long takedowns and really kind of spearing guys. And I think it's exactly that sort of like obvious tell, shoulders and hips are lying down as your eyes are up, like your chin's up. Just it'd be a bad time to eat an uppercut from 50k. I would back Bryce Mitchell to win this fight. I can just see how there will be at least one opportunity per round to really take Bryce Mitchell's head off.
And the real question with Bryce as well, he talked about how much that loss affected him to put, oh God, what's his name? Topuria.
Yeah, Leah Topuria.
Dan Ige not going to break in this fight. He'll keep fighting through some really bad moments and bad positions.
Yeah.
Do we know Bryce Mitchell can do the same thing? I don't know. Can he get cracked? 100%. Can Dan Ige potentially fend off his takedowns? Yeah, possibly. You look at Bryce and he's just not... He doesn't look like he's fully thickened out, you know what I mean, for a professional MMA fighter that bases his tactics around grappling.
He looks like different. A jiu-jitsu guy, but I don't think Ige's going to survive the takedowns. I think he will finish every... Or, you know, I can see him fighting back to his feet. He will get taken down every round for as long as the fight goes on.
Interesting prediction. Although not a pick.
Not a pick.
Feature fight, Marina Rodriguez taking on Michelle Waterson-Gomez. This is a rematch of a fight that happened as a main event, short notice fill-in main event, but they did 5 rounds at flyweight 125 pounds.
Yeah.
It's now 3 rounds at strawweight. I don't see a reality where the fight result is any different. Like, I think Marina's a better fighter and bigger than Michelle.
I mean, the previous fight really did just come down to like the size, but yeah, she has really come on leaps and bounds. Michelle was kind of old back then.
She's 37 now, although Marina Rodriguez is 36. There's not that much of a difference.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she doesn't fight like it.
I know.
You know, it's just Michelle's OG. She's been prominent in the game for a long time. That's what that is.
I see Marina winning that. Okay, let's get down to... We got a lot of tough people on this card. A lot of tough alumni.
Let's start with Brian.
Brian Battle.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
Who doesn't?
He's got
a great guy.
Terrible fight name.
Terrible
fight name.
Great fighter though.
Fighting AJ Fletcher. I would kind of back Brian Battle here. He's strong, he's athletic, he can grapple, he's got submissions, he can strike, he can knock you out. He's got devastating power.
That head kick KO was really nicely set up and was just fucking textbook.
He's going to have a massive reach advantage, 195 centimeters to 170. You're looking at like 6'1" to about 5'10". It's going to be, I think Brian Battle has fun there.
A guy that is just fighting with more and more confidence as well.
Yeah, putting it all together. Ricardo Ramos versus Charles Jourdain. That is a fun way to open up the main card. Ricardo Ramos, for people who doesn't know, he is the spinning shit guy. He throws spinning elbows, spinning kicks. He's got like 2 spinning elbow knockouts in the UFC. He can also technically fight. And he's going up against Charles Jourdain. He's literally a fight of the night bonus maker. Brings it every time.
Yep.
Not always the best guy. Definitely has flaws. But you can't take away his heart, his willingness to fight, his desire to entertain.
He's a long guy that fights long to create entries to then just fight on the inside for a bit. You know, he fights long into combinations. It's just, it's beautiful chaos.
You look at his record though, and here's the issue. Beats Cron Gracie, that's great. Loses to Nathaniel Wood. Good fight, but Nathaniel Wood just kind of edged him on class. Loses to Shane Burgos. Close fight. Shane's just a little bit bigger and stronger. Beats Lando Venata. Beats Andre Ewell. Loses to Erosa. Makes a mistake, gets submitted. Beats Marcelo Rojo. Great fucking fight. Great performance. So you just kind of feel like it's like a combination of there's a level he can't beat, and then every now and again he might just have a little bit of a sloppy performance and have like an Erosa loss.
Yeah. But again, Erosa's the exact same guy in that regard. The Nathaniel Wood one was real close. Some of these fights were very good fights. Didn't look like he was ever out of the fight or anything like that. You can definitely tell he's good enough to hang with these guys. It's just it hasn't gone his way. And yes, some of that does come down to he does take some risks. I think the Andre Ewell one was like the last fight on his contract at the time. So I rearranged my junk, soz.
I just did the same. I had my leg up and I realised it doesn't look good on camera.
Is where he really fucking put a stamp on it by stamping through Andre Ewell in the final seconds of the fight. Like,
yeah, his Sparta kick.
Yeah.
That was fucking cool.
He's that kind of guy. He's definitely good enough to be a top guy. It's just finding a way to finish these guys.
Also just putting it all together.
Yeah, you wonder if having 5 rounds to really kind of throw the kitchen sink at someone, if that makes a difference for him.
Time will tell. Time will tell. They're giving main events to guys less deserving than him right now, so we'll talk about that. Prelims we're not going to spend too much time on, but these are some fun fights. Another tough alumni, Dan Argueta, taking on Miles Johns. That's a good fight. Tim Means, Andre Fiallo.
I like that fight.
Jacob Malkoun, Cody Brundage.
Kind of like that fight.
Mohammed Usman, again, tough alumni, taking on Jake Collier. How's that guy still in the UFC?
He's got a thing for tubby white guys. It's I'm blanking on his fucking name all over again.
What, Dana White?
Nah, Sarah Longo fighter. I once described him as the only overpaid UFC fighter.
Todd Duffy?
Nah, former light heavyweight moved to heavyweight.
Volante.
Yeah, John Volante.
John Volante got the best ever last fight moment though. Like, he should have been a guy that just gets cut from the UFC after devastatingly losing his last fight on his contract, and that's the end of it. But he fights that Chris Barnett guy that does all the little black guy that does all the crazy stuff. Yeah. And then it was near New York or something. He's like, "This is your boy. Stand up for your man. Stand up for your man." He has the whole crowd. Like, the only moment John Volante would have ever had a whole crowd of people chanting his name.
Yeah, was that a decision or was that the?
No, he's spinning head kick. Okay. It's like, man, there's a lot of people where they would have just fucking done a fucking little dance and then talked about how they're gonna be the champ, but you got knocked out by the one guy who happened to be a fucking super nice dude and gave a fucking care about you. Either way, Collier's having a fight against Mohammed Usman. Both of these guys suck. And then there's 2 more fights that don't need to be discussed. It's not a bad card. It's a better card with a better main event than the week following, which is...
It's gonna get a little barren.
Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green. I
Good
love
fight.
me some Bobby Green. He's not main event Bobby Green. I don't even think he's ranked. He might be ranked because he beat Tony Ferguson.
No.
But Tony Ferguson shouldn't have been ranked.
Tony Ferguson shouldn't have been fighting.
He's fighting Grant Dawson. I love Grant Dawson, but these are not main event people of a fight night.
There are, I think we went through it and there were like some interesting fights on there.
There were some fun fights.
And then the week after really is nothing, right? You know what else we got this week?
Yusuf Barbosa.
You got Johnny Eblen defending his belt against Fabian Edwards in Bellator.
Could we have 2 Edwards brothers?
Yeah, I've completely forgotten the rest of that card, but interesting. And I think that's
I'd like to quote Dana White.
So I'm going to watch Bellator leading in.
I'd like to quote Dana White. Who the fuck gives a fuck about Bellator?
Ding! Me.
You do.
Yep.
And that's why you talk about it. Until it gets bought.
Some say it has been bought already. But, you know.
Time will tell.
I assume if it hasn't already been bought by PFL, that's definitely happening.
We will see.
If you're nice not, leave it in the fucking comments. I'll forever hold your fucking peace.
Quickly looking around other sports.
Yeah, go on.
Not bad for our NFL teams. 2-0.
I'm tired of people making fun of Eagles fans for complaining about their team not playing well when they're undefeated. It's 2 weeks in and we haven't looked good offensively yet. We're allowed to complain.
That seems reasonable.
Also, I complain a little bit, just a little bit, about Bournemouth dropping 2 points home to Chelsea, who fucking suck. And, you know, when you have luck on your side, you should put away those late chances.
I don't think many Chelsea fans would say they feel their team has luck on their side
Because
right
they're
now.
stupid, because they like fucking Chelsea. Idiots.
Well, obviously, everyone who supports Chelsea, of course, needs to burn in hell forever.
Bournemouth are the best. Matt agrees.
I've often said that although I'm an Arsenal fan, I think I hate Chelsea more than I love Arsenal. That's how deep my hatred of Chelsea fans go. Because I had to work in bars and restaurants in Chelsea and have these motherfuckers celebrate their greatest moments in my face.
Wow.
With the champagne that I served them. Often ruining the score that I didn't want to know in the process.
One of my best friends growing up was a Chelsea fan. Him and his dad used to make fun of me for being a Bournemouth fan. What do you need a third kit for? Europe? Yeah, soon. You fucking will. Dicks. That felt good.
It's still a good
Been
point.
hanging on to that for a long time. Decades, mate. Decades.
It could be worse because at least you're not Man United. Man United right now,
Just disarray.
2 years ago, or last year, you could argue on their books, or at the start of the season, you could argue on their books, they had, on paper, 3 of the best wingers in the world. One of those wingers apparently doesn't want to train and is falling out with the manager. The manager says he's too fat. One of them has been loaned to Getafe because there's videotape recordings of him sounding like he's raping his girlfriend. We can't say that on YouTube.
Don't say girlfriend.
No.
I know.
I'm sure it's fine. The video's not even monetized.
Yeah. If anyone gets far enough to make this,
We're sorry.
thing.
We know we shouldn't have said that.
yeah.
Doing
and
nasty
like
things.
and subscribe.
Doing nasty things to his girlfriend. Anthony has been accused of doing nasty things to his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a disaster, really.
Yep.
And their formation looks like shit. And they still have Harry Maguire.
West Ham actually wanted to buy.
They rejected
so,
£30 million from West Ham. God, that's funny. Arsenal won, but we don't play well. It's just like, I can't really complain. That's how titles are won. Winning games when you don't play well.
Yeah.
But it's not a lot of fun to watch right now. Not a lot of Saka magic when there's 4 players around him at all fucking times. But the Dolphins...
was Everton you had?
Everton, away from home.
How were they?
They were 10 men behind the ball.
Great. I'm not looking forward. Well, it's our first easy game in October when it finally happens.
Is it home or away?
Away. Good as
Yeah, they're motherfuckers at their home, man. They really are. It's such horrible football. And they are a shit team. That's the one thing I'd say. There's no quality there. Any quality that is in those players has been stripped away from them by Sean Dyche in exchange for hard work, hard to beat, and win second balls.
If you don't sound like this by the end of the day, you must have been fucking around.
Right, what was that? Don't be taking no shots. You win that second ball. When you win that second ball, you put it back in. And then someone else is going to win that second ball. And then one of those second balls is going to be a goal.
I do agree with all of that, though, to be honest.
There's logic to it. And if you are worse than your opponents, it's literally the thing that you should do. Like the one reason that English football is like for so many years was so much more entertaining than La Liga. So you watch La Liga and every single team is like, we're playing Barcelona today. What do you think our tactics should be? Well, let's get the ball on the ground and let's try and pass through their opposition. Oh, we lost 6-0. That sucks.
Yeah, well, you get taught to play the game a different way in England.
This is true. But ever since I've started looking at things the Guardiola and Arteta way, my Football Manager records become ridiculous. I used to really struggle with Football Manager managing teams and trying to do fluid counter-attack. And now it's like, no, inverted wing-backs. What am I talking about? Box midfield created, wingers stay wide. I'm winning the fucking Champions League with Nottingham Forest. It makes no fucking sense.
Well, FM's a little broken in certain ways, but I don't know if you've ever seen. There's a guy who wrote up, I think it's like a 3 to 5 season odyssey, taking over Millwall, doing what he calls Gegenfouling, just creating a team of what he describes as ultimate shithouses, and just taking this team and trying to get the most red cards and concede the most fouls in a season. Actually, he gets fucking promoted at one point. But it's a very interesting read. I think it was on Reddit. But if you type in Millwall Gegenfouling, it's going to come up. It's fucking amazing.
I've seen a YouTube video of a guy trying to do an FM career, which he calls Brexit FC, where he basically appoints Sam Allardyce as the manager of West Ham, and tries to form the team on a basis where it only can be English players.
I thought it'd be a team in Kent at least.
No, he went for West Ham. But it turned out, but he had to obviously form the team, like using transfers and stuff like that to make it English. So the whole time it's just like, no, we can't have any of this. Fabianski, that's far too exotic for Brexit FC. You're out. Instead we're getting in Mark Albrighton from Leicester. Overpaid. And he ends up actually doing quite well, because once it's like Mark Noble, they still had Declan Rice, Michael Antonio, and a few other little signings. Like, you could actually make like a half decent team. But the big thing with his tactics was just like, right, everything passing fully direct, not short, long at all times, full Allardyce football. And now we've completely broken away from normality of discussion with the podcast. I think we should end it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for watching if you're still watching. You're probably not, but if you are, you need to get medical help, because it makes no sense for you to have watched this far.
Create other accounts, rewatch, like, subscribe.
That's good advice.
Don't tell them about the bit where we might demonetize it.
Yeah, but we're not monetized yet, so it's not going to be the worst thing in the world.
Mm.
And word of advice, apparently, if you make a 30-second song and get it on Spotify, and then program AI bots to listen to it 24 hours a day, you can make approximately €800 a month.
Sounds like too much work.
Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.